Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest is my favorite game on the Super Nintendo. Well, okay, it's one of my favorite. It's fighting Chrono Trigger and Mega Man X3 for the top spot, but it's up there. I think what makes this game incredible are two things. One is its premise. A lot of sequels have a hard time really upping the ante in a way that feels natural. But here, the protagonist of the last game has been kidnapped. The kid's sidekick of the last game has to come into his own here. And that's just a narrative I think we can all appreciate. You're not exploring DK Isle anymore either. You're in the Kremling's homeland. You're taking the fight to them rather than just fending them off. The second reason is the art style. The way I sort of see it is, the original Donkey Kong Country was like a classic Warner Brothers or Disney cartoon. The backgrounds were realistic and picturesque, but the characters themselves were over the top in their expressions and animations. Donkey Kong Country 2, meanwhile, is like a Tim Burton or Henry Selick movie. Seriously, look at some of these enemies and tell me you couldn't imagine them hanging around Halloween Town or something. They look great! And this darker, more ambient and grotesque art style matches the more climatic tone. The game just oozes charm and personality everywhere, from its backgrounds to its animations to its character designs. Plus it introduced us to Dixie Kong, who might be the best Kong in the entire series. Like, seriously, I think she might be the most overpowered character in every game she's playable in. Outside of spin-offs, of course. So yeah, this video is a part of my ranking series. Like the last video I did on Donkey Kong Country 1, I'll be ranking every level of Donkey Kong Country 2 from worst to best. Just like that video, I'll preface that I'm not emotionally attached to every level in this game and how it influences the game as a whole. If I dislike a level, it doesn't ruin the experience or anything. And if I really like a level, it's not one I'll go back to and play constantly. Donkey Kong Country 2 is overall a pretty damn good game, and I'll have a lot more to say about it as we go through the list anyway. Also, you should probably watch my video on Donkey Kong Country 1 before watching this one. Just cause it's the first game and this is the sequel, that just makes sense. So without further ado, it's on! It's on like video game Pong.
My eyes, the goggles do nothing.
Back in my DKC1 review, I put Torchlight Trouble down at the bottom for having a gimmick that threatened to give you seizures. I also said that underwater levels tended to suck because there wasn't much actual platforming involved. So you know what would be great? Combining the two together! Oh boy, I'm so happy you did this, Rare! Yeah, Glimmer's Galleon is at the bottom. Just like with Torchlight Trouble, Glimmer here shines his light in your face whenever you turn around. And because it's an underwater level, you'll be turning around a lot. I seriously can't believe Nintendo of all companies saw two levels with this and didn't once think it might have been a problem. Again, they fixed it in the Switch Online version, but still an aggravating mechanic either way. The only positive thing I can say about it is that I like the sunken pirate ship theme more than the cave theme from Torchlight. So yeah, I guess it's got that going for it. But you want to know the worst part? Glimmer makes a return. No, really, an angler like him appears in DK64. They call it a lightfish or something, but in Spanish and German they call him Glimmer again, so I'm still counting him as a returning animal buddy. Meaning he's officially in more games serving the same role than Winky. There is no justice in this world.
Black Ice.
I found Black Ice Battle to be way more frustrating than fun on my playthrough. It's a secret level in the Lost World, meaning it's already going to be harder than your typical World 2 level. But while a good chunk of the Lost World levels are challenging in a sort of fun way, Black Ice Battle was just rage-inducing in the same way actual Black Ice is. Thanks to ice mechanics and a plethora of zingers, you're basically praying you don't spin out of control and slam into one of these guys. The worst enemies here were the Grey Clobbers, who not only knock you back, but are often put into narrow corridors where you can't just jump on them like normal. And the Grey Clobbers have a particularly insidious effect where if they hit you, they steal lives. Straight up reducing your life count if you get hit. I'm good at collecting lives and I have plenty of them in reserve, but goddamn, these things are dangerous for first-time players. So yeah, ice and bees, not a good combination.
Will send me someone to lava.
Lava Lagoon is an aggravating level unless you know exactly what to do. It's a water level with a peculiar gimmick. See, when the water is red, that means that it's lava or boiling or something. But this seal named Clapper has the power to turn the lava into normal water for a short period of time. Note the word there, period of time. See, this is the deal with swimming levels. Because there's no actual platforming involved, there's really only two ways to challenge you. Either throw out enemies for you to avoid, or make you explore the level. And exploring things on a time limit where if it runs out you take a hit or die, yeah, that's where things get a bit frustrating. If you're just trying to beat this game normally, it's honestly not so bad. But if you want 102%, then you can very easily find yourself cutting it uncomfortably close with trying to find the bonus rooms and the DK coin. So here's a handy tip. This level has only one bonus room and it's not underwater. And the path to the DK coin is hidden here in this area. You're welcome. I don't know what the heck Clapper's power even is. Like, is this water actually lava that he's magically changing back into water? Or is it just boiling hot water that he cools off with his ice powers? The latter might actually make more sense as we see later on. But for now, yeah, this level is just kind of bothersome.
I'm angry and I'm wet.
It might seem weird to put Crocodile Core, the last boss fight, so low on this list, but I think it deserves this spot. Because it's literally just Rool Duel, but less interesting. The background is cool. I'm legit wondering what the hell this swirling energy is here. Wait a minute. But everything else about it is just lacking. He fires cannons at you and you dodge. There's no random element here and he doesn't reposition himself, so once you know what the exact bullet array is, it's just a matter of reacting accordingly. And once you dodge all them, just beat him the same way you beat him last time. It's a bit underwhelming for a final showdown with the captain. Every time I see people talk about the Bramble levels in this game, it's always the same thing. OMG, you guys, Sticker Brush Symphony is so good. Sticker Brush Symphony is such a good song, it's incredible, it's so light and breezy, yeah, okay, I get it. Again, we're not ranking songs here, we're ranking levels. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the Bramble levels suffer from one problem. I'm sorry to be this guy, but where the heck are we? So many levels in this game do a decent job of telling you relatively where you are in this setting. But Bramble Blast, meanwhile? I just got off a sinking pirate ship in a swamp, and now I'm in Jack and the Beanstalk? Not helping is that I think this is the least interesting of the Bramble levels. You just jump into the barrels, wait for them to point you to the correct one, and it launches you there. Yeah, I'm sorry, but this feels like a test level that got turned into an actual level when they ran out of development time. Like, oh shit, we don't have a level for this stage. Put some barrels in a Bramble stage and call it a day. Like, I respect the idea somewhat. It just feels kind of lazy and uninteresting in its execution, however. Now, I didn't touch the GBA version of DKC1 because looking into it, it didn't really have any difference from the SNES version, other than it moving some levels around. The GBA version of DKC2, on the other hand, actually had a unique boss made for that version of the game. And never let it be said, I'm nothing if not dedicated. So I played through the GBA version of DKC2 for this video. It's basically the same game, except it looks and sounds worse. There's really no reason to play it with the Switch version of all three games widely available. But it also brought us this version of Stronghold Showdown. Yeah, see, if I was just grading the SNES levels, I doubt this one would even rank. Like, it's not a level, it's a glorified cutscene. But the GBA version has a boss here, and it's kinda lame. I like the implication he uses the cleavers as weapons, but his fire breath attack is really annoying to dodge. I seriously didn't know how you were supposed to avoid it at first, it has such a quick startup. Then I learned, oh, you can just stand on his fists. Anyway, it's still a boring fight that looks and sounds worse due to the GBA's graphics. And I don't really like his design either. The front face combined with the muscular body and overly saturated graphics just makes me think of, like, a really cheap and shitty action figure. Like I'm fighting some weird knockoff of American Dragon Jake Long or something. I'd love to see what he looks like in the older graphical style, but as is, he just looks dumb.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Parachute Panic is the introduction to one of the worst animal buddies around. Quawks. In this game, he's especially bad. He's basically Squawks, but he can't fly. And he just descends slowly as he carries you. Well, I guess descending slowly is useful. It's not like we have a character who can glide or anything. So yeah, Quawks sucks, and the worst part is, Squawks is in this level. He's in 2 bonus levels where you get to control him and use his actual useful abilities. But the level takes him away from you because this level is about Quawks. Not that good parrot companion you like. No, you need to use the useless parrot that's only here because his more successful brother got him a job. The level taunts you with the animal buddy you want to play as, only to force you to play as the animal buddy you don't. I hate you, Quawks, and you'll never amount to anything.
Look, he's my brother. He didn't get enough oxygen at birth. He's never gonna be quite in step with the rest of us, and this is sort of my way of taking care of him.
Well, that's nice of you, but it was so much simpler when it was just you and me doing our thing.
I know, but just let him have this one.
Okay, you're on!
Yay! Jeez, jeez, jeez! Yay!
I'm so sorry for your burden. You're a good brother.
Get out of here, man! Shit, I'm saying.
The bosses in Donkey Kong Country 2 are generally an improvement over Donkey Kong Country 1's bosses. They're a bit more rigidly structured, but you do have actual environments you fight them in, and there's a bit more to them. Plus, they don't double up on bosses like in DKC 1. Nope, not at all. Yeah, Creepy Crow is down here. He's just the first boss, but a ghost. I'm sorry, but this is just really lazy, I find. You kill the one living mini Neki he sends out against you, it makes a barrel, and you just throw it at him. Do that 3 times, and you've won. Also, the rope climb mechanics where he throws eggs out at you are just really annoying. I'll talk more about the rope climb mechanics in another section, but yeah, I have problems with it. I think the eggs come at you on a vertical and horizontal axis, but the speed and rate of it changes wildly. I almost always get hit by these things, and I have no way to dodge them effectively. You could have had any ghost here and done basically the same mechanic. Hell, you could have used a cackle for this boss fight, and I think I would have preferred that. Whatever, let's move on.
Captain, the bees have us surrounded! Oh, the professor was right. We're not as good as his old crew.
Well, I aim to prove him wrong. It'll take more than a few deadly bees to... Oh, Lord!
Rambi Rumble goes in the category of a really neat idea with a flawed execution. See, in this level you transform into Rambi, and you plow through a bunch of Zinger enemies no problem. Only, holy shit, the boss of this level shows up to chase you. And no, you can't beat him. The music gets super intense and threatening too. It's really cool that the game would reveal the world's boss in the last level right before you fight him. The only problem is that while this is a cool moment in theory, in practice it winds up looking like this. Yeah, see, as long as you're playing even halfway well, and let me be clear here, I am no expert at Donkey Kong Country 2, you'll just run ahead and never so much as even see the world boss. Which turns the entire encounter a bit anticlimactic. The level itself before the Rambi section is also kind of frustrating. You need to jump down these sticky walls with zingers flying around, and it's way too easy to get hit. The camera likes to place you way close to the ground, which normally works for this game, but not so much when you need to avoid enemies while falling. It sucks, but it doesn't suck enough to make me want to use Quawks.
This is our king.
King Zing Sting goes immediately after here for the simple reason that while this boss fight does make sense for the world and is a bit more involved than its DKC1 counterparts, it's literally just the same sprite as Queen Bee from Donkey Kong Country 1. Except this one is King Zing, so it's like... her husband? Isn't the whole point of beehives that the queen is the biggest one? Is this some kind of chimera ants thing? But I can at least say the fight against him is more interesting. You turn to Squawks for this fight and have to spit coconuts at his stinger. The fact you have to fly around to avoid it in the air does make the fight considerably more interesting, even if I think the boss design itself is a bit lazy. Like, at least make him a different color, okay?
Piranha! It's a piranha!
Unlike with DKC1, the water levels of DKC2 have a marginal advantage in that Diddy and Dixie can leave the water and run around on land between them. Water levels aren't secluded sections that are their own entire thing. They tend to be a lot more balanced. With that said though, I'm still not really a fan of most levels that have an overt focus on water, and thus Lockjaw's locker gets put here. This level basically introduces us to the enemy Lockjaw, a piranha whose deal is that he bites a bit before charging at you directly. He's basically the undersea equivalent of a bull-type enemy. He's not a bad enemy necessarily, but he's not particularly special, and this level feels more like an introduction to how water and swimming works in the game than anything else. It's got a cool theme in the ship hold, but that's about all it has going for it.
It's time to try defying gravity.
Windy Well is one of the last levels of this game, and its mechanic is a unique one. Basically, when you jump, the wind suddenly goes into a major updraft and sends your Kongs flying upward. Or sometimes it'll send you up to the top of the screen, then drop you down a bit before sending you back up again. Thus, the objective becomes to avoid enemies and try to circumvent your way around them while being forced to ascend. While I do appreciate the time and effort that probably went into this gimmick, the hit detection in the Donkey Kong Country games has never been the best, sadly. The complex sprites and enemy design can sometimes make it really difficult to discern when something hits you and when something doesn't. Normally it's good enough, but when you literally don't have control over your character, when the simple act of jumping can force you to commit to a sudden ascent, it turns the game's core mechanics against you in a way I don't find particularly fun. Like, yes, this is a light level, so obviously it's going to be hard, but it's not hard in an interesting or fun way. It's just a slog. I'm sure somebody out there loves this level, but I don't. The only reason it's still this high is because, again, it is a later level, so I do understand what it's doing, and they clearly put a lot of thought into it. It is a fully fleshed out gimmick that's explored to its logical end. It's just not a gimmick I enjoy. Sorry. Also, I don't really like to bring up the bonus rooms for these, because they're just fun little side things. But in this level's case, what the hell is this? No, seriously, what the hell is this? This looks like a placeholder for a bonus room that you just left here.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
A lot of people seem to think that DKC2 is one of the harder games in the series. I've even seen people call it one of the hardest platformers on the SNES. And like, nah, not really. Don't get me wrong, it can be tricky as hell. It is by no means a cakewalk, especially if it's your first time playing. I am by no means an expert at this game, and even I managed to get close to 60 lives through my playthrough. I was not in any danger of getting a game over. As long as you're paying attention and have decently fast reflexes, you can get through this game well enough. I wrote this paragraph out early in the drafting phase of this script. I changed my mind after playing Clobber Carnage. Clobber Carnage is a level that will kick you in the balls. It is a level that throws a ton of these annoying ass barrel enemies at you. The yellow ones drain your bananas, and the gray ones, as I pointed out before, drain your lives. And that's on top of the rotating barrels that are traveling over spikes with zingers lining the pathway. And did I mention that sometimes the barrel will decide to spin in a random direction depending on what button you press? I cannot tell you how many times I pressed left expecting to turn counterclockwise, only for it to begin turning clockwise. I don't know what makes it do that, but it screwed me over a bunch. And the worst part, the last stretch. You need to have both Kongs in order to do a throw maneuver to reach the bonus barrel and get a DK coin. Except these goddamn clobbers will bum rush you directly into the spikes. The jumping and timing has to be perfect in order to avoid getting hit here. I died so much during this level, it almost made me scream. The only reason it's still this high is because it is a Lost World level, and technically it's not necessary to get a DK coin to get the true ending. It's only really frustrating if you're going for 102%, which if you are, then good luck, that's all I'll say. Watch, I'll get like 50 comments in this video saying, I beat this level and got the DK coin first try. Yeah, I'm sure you did, I'm very proud. Hornet Hole is the first Hive level of this game, and it sort of highlights why I dislike the Hive levels. See, the mechanics of these levels are simple. Honey on the ground means you can't run or walk on it. Honey on the walls makes you stick to it, and that's how you go up. The problem I have with this mechanic is that it doesn't do much for the actual moment-to-moment platforming or momentum. It kinda just slows you down and obstructs you. I get that not every mechanic in a game has to be a 100% banger that's fun to play with, but this one just kinda got on my nerves the more I thought about it. But it's the simplest and the most easy of the Hive levels, and it doesn't have quawks, so it gets to be above all the others.
Seriously! You can't be serious!
I swear I don't have it out for the Lost World. It's fine, it's okay, I'm just saying, they can be real difficulty spikes. I'd almost recommend doing them last, except that's a bad idea as I'll get into later. Anyway, Fiery Furnace is okay. It's a level that introduces another unique mechanic. Barrels that you control midair and are on a timer. So the real challenge is avoiding the zingers. But again, it's here because of one really stupid design detail, again related to the bonus room. See, the bonus room is a really annoying Bramble stage where you need to avoid the zingers and the wall while in a controllable barrel. It's one of the harder bonus stages, and the worst part is, if you fail this stage, you immediately are put into a launch barrel that places you over the exit, meaning you get one shot at it. I suppose if you've already been in it once and you're in this situation, you can just pause and exit out and you'll be back at the save barrel again. But like, that's not much better. So yeah, that's why this level is going here.
Let's see the instructions and benefits of adding Ghost Rope.
Ghostly Grove is another fine level with not a lot to talk about, sadly. It introduces us to Gloomy Gulch, the haunted world of DKC2, and its main gimmick is ghost ropes. Ropes that appear and then disappear after a while. Yeah, it's kind of a basic-ass gimmick. I do like the atmosphere of the forest and the music, but I would be lying if I didn't say the other levels didn't sell it better. Not a bad level to start with, but not an outstanding level either. Clobber's Cavern is a nice level with an interesting gimmick. The water has an enemy known as Snapjaw inside of it, an invincible Lockjaw who basically kills you instantly. This isn't the level where he's introduced, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to jump on Clobber to freeze the water to give yourself a limited time to run on top of it and avoid him. I like this more than other water levels because the objective is to actually avoid the water as a hazard. It's a fine level, but not one I'm going to be writing home about anytime soon. Good challenge for the last world of this game, but still. Jungle Jinx is the first Lost World level, and man, I do not remember disliking the Lost World levels this much. Like, I don't hate this level, at least not terribly, but the gimmick of it is giant monster truck tires that just roll over everything and you go to bounce on them. Yay? Yeah, I just don't really get what the vision here was. Like, it's a cool idea. The last game was all about jungles, but now this game starts out with pirate ships and lava geysers and swamps, and you only get to an actual jungle level when you earn Creme coins. But the actual implementation of these levels just feels off to me. I wish I had a better understanding of where these giant rubber tires were coming from. Like, is there a monster truck rally going on in the Lost World we just aren't seeing? Or maybe if instead of tires it was like giant spiders with springs on the back, or I don't know, something. This just feels like such a random idea for a level like this. Also, oh, that's cute. It's the same name as the first level of the first game, but you removed High from it. Cause hijinks is fun and frolicking, but a jinx is a curse, okay. Cudgel's Contest is another boss I feel is a bit lacking. Like, he's just a recolor of Clubba. They don't even give him a walking animation. I don't know if he was first and they decided to use a recolor of him as the Lost World Gatekeeper, or if it was the other way around. But it still results in a boss that feels a bit cheap in design. I always got a bit annoyed with the fact you could fight a guy who was identical to Clubba, but if you were to actually fight Clubba himself, he'd just whack you instantly. Maybe that's because he literally gives you the opportunity to beat him. Yeah, all the bosses in this game drop a barrel or cannonball or something, but like, there you could almost buy it was just stuff laying around that you just happened upon in the right circumstance. Whereas here, yeah, no, he's literally just spawning TNT barrels for you to use against him. He even knocks it out of your hand if you hold it too close to him later on. Bruh, why are you calling down this thing? You're literally just calling down the one thing that could beat you. Is it to give me a fair chance? Oh wait, is that why it's called Cudgel's Contest? Because he's just challenging you to a fair contest of not getting whacked by his giant club. Yeah, I don't know, let's move on.
This one is called Judgment Chain.
Chainlink Chamber is one of the last levels of this game, and thus it's under onus to provide a challenge to the player. The problem is that this is another challenge that I don't find all that fun. Basically, the castle is full of these chains you have to climb on and avoid enemies. While that is a neat idea, sadly I find the actual rope and chain climbing mechanic of the game to be painful, and for one reason. This incredibly well animated side movement. Like, it's a cool animation and it looks great, but it means that moving horizontally in these sections is drastically slower than moving vertically. Or counterintuitively, horizontally but you hang from it. Yes, I unironically think that the game should put less chains here to give you better freedom of movement. You move slower one way over another when it didn't need to be this way. Or they could have made ascending the smaller grid spaces to also take an equally slow time. At least that way it would have been consistent, but as it is, it's just a bad experience. Still though, it is one of the final stages, so I can't be too harsh on it for being challenging. I just wish it was challenging in a way it didn't feel like it was tying one arm behind my back.
It's hopeless! Abandoned ship!
Pirate Panic is sort of like this game's version of Jungle Hijinks. It has a story clue early on, it's got Rambi in the level, it basically serves as an introduction to the themes and mechanics of Donkey Kong Country. It's a really cool idea to have the initial world of DKC2 be a pirate ship world when the last level of DKC1 was itself a pirate ship. It makes the last game lead into this one in a really clever way. The only reason it's below the midpoint of this list is because I think I overall prefer Jungle Hijinks more as a first level. This one isn't bad, mind, it's just lacking the real wow factor of it transitioning to night at the end. Also, I think the note Captain K. Rool leaves you is a bit too on the nose. Like, the last game showed you Donkey Kong's empty banana hoard and that was enough. Here, though, they need to have the bad guy literally send you a note saying, "Boo-ha-ha-ha, I've kidnapped the hero of the last game. Come and get him if you dare." It's a bit less, I don't know, something.
I'm a fish?
Arctic Abyss is the last real water level of the game, and the reason it gets to be above most others is due to the fact you turn to Endguard for most of it. Endguard controls better than the Kongs, has an actual attack underwater, and in general is used to make the swimming more fun in the game anyway. So turning into him for an entire water level is not only a good way to break up the flow, but also make the level more enjoyable. It basically goes from being a shmup with shitty controls and no actual attack button, to a shmup with less shitty controls and a melee charge. Not ideal, but better than before, so it gets to be here as a result.
The floor's lava! Really? Let's go!
Hothead Hop is the first real lava level of the game, and the first level of Crocodile Cauldron. The level itself is pretty simple and easygoing. It's really cool to have a lava world, usually the last level in these types of games, as the second level that you go through. But I do have one gripe about it. How the hell can these crocodiles survive sitting in lava? Like, I'm not crazy for being the only one to notice that, right? In all other levels that have crocodile platforms, it makes sense. But here? What are these lava-proof crocodiles? I get that this is a video game and some suspension of disbelief is required, obviously, but like, couldn't you, I don't know, make these crocodiles look more like rocks? Or more dragon-like, just to sell that they're able to chill out in lava like nothing's the matter? This is also the introduction to Squitter. I didn't like Squitter initially as a kid, but that was mostly because I didn't understand his platform mechanic. I like him a lot more now as an adult, though. He's a spider with shoes! Man, he's gotta waste a ton of money on those. I'll just end this by saying he's a great animal buddy and a good friend. Barrel Bayou is another fine level, but only just fine. It's the introduction of cloaks, these weird headless ghost enemies. It's ultimately a pretty okay level with not a lot to really say about it. It's got Rambi in it, and you need him to get the hero coin. Honestly, these no animal signs kinda worry me. Like, I understand the game doesn't want you to leave a level with an animal buddy, because some levels aren't designed for them, which wasn't a problem in the first game, but whatever. But how exactly do these work? Do the animal buddies just see the sign and are like, "Well, guess this is where I'm out. You see the sign, right?"
And this one means...
Then they leave you a gift as a consolation prize? Oh, well, whatever. Let's move on.
It was my understanding that everyone had heard.
Heard what? Brian, don't!
Crow's Nest is the first real boss fight of the game, and it does a good job of showcasing how much more effort they put into the boss fights this time around. Not exceptional, but that just goes to show how bad DKC1's bosses were. This is a giant Neki that drops eggs on you from its nest. You pick one up, throw it at it, and then you beat it. A simple boss fight, but climatic and it fits with the tone and theme of the world. Unlike its rematch, which I just find baffling, so it gets to go here. Main Brace Mayhem is the second level of the game, and it highlights how this game can take approximately the same basic theme, pirate ship, and tweak it in a number of ways. This level introduces you to the rope mechanic. I already explained my issue with it in Chain Link Chamber. But it's a much easier level, so the mechanic is more fun and freewheeling here, which I think puts it right smack dab in the middle of the list.
Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Gangplank Galley is sort of the better version of Pirate Panic. It transitions to a sunset as you reach the end of the level, and has a few more of the game's actual mechanics involved here. It feels more like an actual introduction to what DKC2 is about than the actual first level, which I felt was more just there to remind people of what DKC1's mechanics are, or to serve as an introduction to people who didn't play one. Yeah, like here, these are enemies, this is Ramby, this is jumping, this is a bonus room. Now it's time for hooks, invincibility barrels, treasure chests. That's why I'm putting it here.
Fire! Fire!
Cannon's Claim is the first mine level and the introduction to Cannon, a Kremling that shoots projectiles at you. This level is pretty fun. I like how the mines in the Kremling's Isle have small bits of crystal laying around, showing how they've already stripped most of their homeland of their resources, while Donkey Kong's island remains rich. Still don't really get why there were factories on Donkey's Island, but nothing even remotely that advanced here, but whatever. This level is just good fun.
Yesterday, I ran into illusory walls.
Bramble Scramble is another fun level, although I do have two slight nitpicks against it. First, it's in Crazy Kremland, and I'm sorry, but again, where the hell is this? We were just in a dark-ass carnival, but now we're, again, somewhere in the sky surrounded by plants. The background is a bit darker than Bramble Blast, but, like, it's still obviously clouds and a blue sky back there. Also, this level commits a cardinal sin of level design. When I see a location I can't reach and is one way in a level, I'm instructed to think, oh, there was a pathway I forgot about back there. Which in this case, there isn't. So what are you supposed to do? The answer is jump through the wall that kills you. Except this one doesn't. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 likes to rely on invisible walls, and I won't lie, it's a bit annoying. These don't ruin the level by any means, but they do keep it from being any higher.
So, you're dressed like a ship's captain. What, why are you dressed like a ship's captain?
Rool Duel being here may seem strange. What, he's not even the best boss fight in the game? But this is my list, and this is where he goes. Deal with it. He's a fun boss fight, alright. He has a ton of mechanics and a lot of phases. I like how each of his gas attacks do something different. From his ice that freezes you, to his red attacks that slow you down, to this purple gas that literally inverts your controls. That one is diabolical. Especially since immediately afterwards, he turns invisible, and your only counter is to run away from him. Gotta remember which way is left or right again. Strangely, we'll be seeing this purple chemical make a return. The only reason this boss fight is here is because once you understand his pattern, he just kind of turns into a slog. A lot of later DKC bosses would take their cues from Captain K. Rool here, and not to their benefit. But oh well, it's still a great fight, just not the best one in the game. Which one is the best? Well, the one that I've yet to talk about.
Does anyone know how to curse a real sword? A real sword? Yeah.
Ugh. Cleaver's Kiln is the best boss fight in Donkey Kong Country 2, and I will hear no arguing otherwise. No, seriously, this boss fight is incredible. He fits the theme of the world perfectly. A haunted sword held by a burning hand, cursed to protect his land and assault anyone who dares take his booty. I can remember playing DKC 2 for the first time and being scared shitless of this boss. Especially when it looks like you've beaten him, only for him to rise up out of the lava and reveal that the hand that was holding him wasn't even the one in control. If every boss in Donkey Kong Country 2 was as cool and well thought out as this one, I dare say this game would be an absolute masterpiece. But sadly, it's just the way it is. The bosses peak early and don't let up till the very end, but that's better than being low to mid all around, I suppose.
Would you like to ride my beautiful balloon?
Red Hot Ride gets points for taking a mechanic that had the potential to be the worst thing ever, and making it somewhat fun. These balloons you ride on slowly descend, but if you position them under the geysers of hot air, they rise. If you could fall off these things by walking off, and it was a balancing act, I dare call this level unplayable. But thankfully the game just reads your inputs of left and right as you push the balloon along and act accordingly. You have no danger of falling off on your own, which lets you focus on avoiding the zingers. I just realized while typing this that these balloons could have easily replaced Quawks in Parachute Panic and nothing would have changed. God, I hate Quawks so much. Such a useless animal companion. He doesn't even show up in the end credits! They couldn't even bother to shout him out! Okay, I'm done now. I swear, no more shitting on Quawks. If I can help it.
Good things come to those who wait. Ha ha!
Squawks Shaft is his introduction to Squawks, a pretty great animal buddy, unlike his brother. Anyway, yeah, Squawks is cool. He's grown a couple feet and gave up the eye-blinding flashlight for the ability to cough up coconuts. I almost want to call this a Monty Python reference, but I don't know if I can. He basically turns this game into a shmup, and this level is a good example of it. Just a fun vertical level where you can test out a good animal buddy named Squawks. Squawks' Shaft. Squawks' Shaft. Gonna say it again, Squawks' Shaft. Just a level with a big mine shaft and Squawks. Squawks' Shaft. Get it? Because it can also mean Pete!
Coily the Spring Spike, they call me.
Coily? Ew.
Top Sail Trouble is a climatic level that introduces us to Ratley, who's... he's fine, but he's no Winky. Yeah, apparently Winky had a bit of a weird hitbox, so they made a new animal buddy who was more vertical, so you had a better understanding of how to jump on enemies. Which, I guess works. But Ratley himself is just kind of dopey looking, and I don't like his buck teeth. Or fangs, I guess? Whatever. This level is still pretty great, though. Just a cool ascent up a pirate mast as a storm rages in the background. This level really goes a long way to give the game a feeling of a high-flying adventure. I know that the implication is supposed to be that there's just a big pirate shipyard that Diddy and Dixie arrive at when they get to the Kremling's Isle, but I always interpreted the first world of DKC2 as them actually stowing away on a ship and fending off the crew as it sailed in the port. And this level is the climatic battle in the storm that's necessary for any good pirate movie. And that's what puts it here.
Alright, let's do this one last time.
Web Woods has a certain mystique to me. Like I said before, as a kid, I didn't understand Squitter's platform mechanic. I'd press A and he'd just launch this slow-moving ball that didn't do anything. So whenever I got to this level as a kid, I could never beat it. I don't know how I learned to use Squitter, but when I finally did, it was like I somehow had seen the code of the Matrix. Like, oh man, this changes everything! I can make platforms that I can stand on? And this level is a good test of that mechanic. Just a fun and engaging level overall with a good atmosphere. I like how you have to follow a cannonball shot by a cannon to this wall in order to get to the bonus room. That's a really clever idea. But with that said, I do have one problem with Squitter that does need to be highlighted. See, you can only have about 3 platforms active at a time, which makes sense. Memory limitations and all. But I don't know why, every time I make a platform, there's a 50-50 chance the one I'm on right now is going to be the one deleted and start vanishing. When the other platform I abandoned way back there is still around, like, what? Come on, remove that one I'm not using! I don't know what the programming is behind these things, but yeah, that annoyed me. They don't disappear immediately, thankfully, and you do have the chance to jump to your new platform, but yeah, it can still kinda suck. Still not enough to ruin this level or anything, but yeah, worth noting.
Chili dogs.
Mudhole Marsh is a swamp level outside of Crazy Kremland. What kind of sick, twisted idiot built a theme park in the middle of a bug-ridden swamp full of killer hornets? Who would build such a place in such a shitty location? Who, I ask you? Who? And easy joke out of the way. No more easy jokes here. This level introduces us to Cato Ninetails, who is, damn it!
I'm waiting!
Yeah, he's very obviously rare taking pot shots at Sonic. Donkey Kong Country did try to position itself as the cooler, edgier Mario of the 90s, and thus I think it always saw itself more as the actual rival to Sonic than Mario itself was. The Cato Ninetails itself is an interesting enemy too. If it catches you, it doesn't kill you, it just launches you into a random direction. I don't know if you have control over it necessarily, but I swear it launches me in the general location I hold the button down on. The level itself is pretty basic, but fun, so it gets to be here.
Interior crocodile alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater.
Crockhead Climber is the final Bayou level on this list, and I think it might be the best one. The gimmick of this level is that you hit this barrel to summon crocodile heads that you jump on as platforms. This makes a lot more sense for them to be here than Hothead Heap, which retroactively makes you wonder if they were designed for this level initially and then put into that level to quickly get something out the door. You got a Squitter bonus room and a bunch of croc hopping. What's not to love? Just a nice, easygoing level overall. Slime Climb is a really cool level that serves as sort of a climax to Kremquay's centerpiece. See, this level has a rising water level, but inside the water is our good friend Snapjaw, an invincible enemy that instantly hones in on you. This makes the rising water a hazard, but not one that'll instantly kill you. There's even a really cool bonus barrel that you can only get by killing this cannon to get an invincibility barrel. It's just a really cool concept that's executed well. What more can you ask for?
Before this is over, I'll show you the true power of chaos control!
Screech's Sprint is the only Bramble level where it makes sense that it's a Bramble level. Like, yeah, we're super high up and trying to reach the captain's airship. I could see it flying close to some giant brush or whatever, but what makes this level really cool is Screech, who's basically the shadow to Squawks' Sonic. He's a rival who challenges Squawks to a race, and it's a pretty fun challenge all things considered. I like how this level has shortcuts you can take. If you know what you're doing or you're just observing the environment, you can make this race a pretty easy cakewalk. There's no coin or nothing if you win though, you just die if you lose. Yeah, Screech seems to enjoy some pretty high stakes. And considering he never comes back after this, yeah, I think he went out honorably.
Maria, this is what you wanted, right? This is my promise I made to you.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Rattle Battle introduces a very important mechanic to DKC2. Barrels that transform you into one of your animal buddies. Now in Donkey Kong Country 1 there were bonus levels where you controlled your animal buddies by themselves, but they were very basic in design and were just an excuse to grab a bunch of not bananas. Here, however, they make the smart decision of turning you directly into your animal buddy so that the entire level can be built around them. In Donkey Kong Country 1, the level could never assume you had your animal buddies since you could always hit and lose them, or simply not take them. Here, however, the game forces you to use their mechanics, and that's a smart idea. And I think the first level to really use this mechanic might be the best one. Rattle Battle uses Rattly's mechanics to their best, and overall makes the level super enjoyable. Rattly may not be Winky, but he's good enough, and I enjoy playing as him for an entire sequence. The only thing I'm a bit on in regards to its mechanics is how it handles extra hits. Like, obviously you can't have two animal buddies running around next to each other, that would be weird. So they just have a little animal icon on the bottom to indicate you can take an extra hit. And yeah, this is the level that leads into Slime Climb, which considering the green-ass water in this level, it makes me wonder if Slime Climb was supposed to have a gimmick of a certain other level that's coming up. Rickety Race is an interesting level with a cool gimmick. It only has one bonus barrel to start, and the rest of the level is just you trying to bypass these 9 Kremlings on skull carts ahead of you. Beat all 9 of them and you get the DK coin. I really do applaud this game for taking the minecart levels from the first game and taking them in an interesting direction. It helps make this game feel like a true sequel, rather than just a redux of the original. The only reason it's not higher is because I find attacking some of the Kremlings you're chasing to be a bit annoying. If you hit their back, then you get pushed away. Happens too much and you're not getting first place either. It makes you try jumping whenever you see one, which can far too easily send you falling over the platform. But that's all it really has going against it, which puts it here.
It doesn't get any wilder than this.
Oh yeah?
See, I don't hate the Lost World, I put its last level here. Animal Antics is really ambitious and really fun. It's basically an excuse to play as all the animal buddies. All the good animal buddies. It's a really cool setup as you go through basically every level theme in one setting. It's one giant victory lap, and it's pretty much the last real level of the game. There's just one problem I have with it. And it's not even really a problem with the level itself. See, the level is pretty challenging. It's a Lost World level after all. But you don't unlock it until you beat Captain K. Rool for the first time. You only get the required 15 Krem coins after you beat him. Okay, what's the problem here? Well, see, the problem is once you beat him and reload your save file after the initial credit roll, all of your lives and banana coins reset. You get 5 lives and 0 banana coins. I went to this pretty challenging level with only 5 tries because I didn't realize this happened. I got a game over entirely because of this too. I'm sorry, but this is just really dumb. I understand lives are just a mechanic you deal with in a game like this, but you can't just save the number of items I collect after I beat the boss? What the hell is this? So yeah, the game screwed me over, but the level itself is pretty fun, so it's here.
Oh no! It's boiling acid!
Toxic Tower is the last level before you really fight K. Rool. Now, technically Screech's sprint comes after this, but that's more of a gimmick level. Yeah, this one's an actual platforming challenge. You basically need to ascend this castle quickly as boiling acid follows you. To get through it, you transform into your 3 animal buddies, Rattly, Squawks, and Squitter. It can be pretty harrowing to try and get through this level with the acid chasing you. The only thing I question is how the hell K. Rool set this up. Like, did he have a bunch of vats of boiling acid ready to just dump out once the Kongs reach this specific area? How much of this acid does he have that he could flood this entire palace? Why didn't he just drop the acid down on you as you climbed up? Well, no use asking stupid questions like that. It's still good enough to get here.
Break the targets!
Target Terror is a really cool card level set on a roller coaster. The premise of this level is simple. You need to jump on the checkmark barrels to open the doors in front of you, and avoid the X-mark barrels, otherwise they close. Really fun idea. It helps give the roller coaster sections a bit more going on. I kinda wish we had a normal platforming level set in the Carnival, but It's a thrilling ride through a pretty great environment. Although it's not the most thrilling ride in the game, or the best version of this concept. That honor goes to...
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Haunted Hall is really fun and really cool. It's basically a cart level where the deal is you have this giant ghost kremlin called a cackle following you around. These plus and minus barrels add and subtract to your timer. If your timer runs out, well, bad news, kids. It's also the level with perhaps the most interesting bonus room in the entire game. Because there's two that are basically back to back. You jump up here to this room, except you actually want to jump on top of this one to get to the other bonus room on top of it. This one then sends you rolling backwards where you go into the second one. That's a really cool setup for a pair of bonus rooms, and it really shows how Rare was thinking outside the box with this game. The level itself also has a really interesting setup. The first cackle has a low timer that you need to hit these plus barrels with to keep adding to your clock. The second cackle has a really high timer where you need to avoid the minus barrels in order to make sure you don't run out. And the final cackle has a more middling timer where you need to hit the plus barrels and avoid the minus barrels. It's really tight too, like you can barely afford to hit even one of these minus barrels if you want to avoid losing a Kong. It's a really awesome level, and I wish the theme was used again sometime in the game. The boss fight of this world should have been a kart race against Cackle, damn it.
I've got a crush on you.
Castle Crush is the level that tells you that this shit is about to amp up. It's a vertical scrolling level where you need to avoid being crushed by this raising platform. It's a slower and more methodical toxic tower or chain link chamber, but without those levels' more annoying elements. You can actually take in the epic score of this level and not be frustrated by the climbing mechanics or the rising hazard. I mean, there is a rising hazard, but it's much more manageable. It's seriously just a great level for the final world, and the level that I personally think of when I imagine the climax of Country 2. I wish I had more to say about it, but it's kind of just an excellent level all around. Although it's not my favorite level. I was pretty surprised by what my favorite level of Donkey Kong Country 1 was. And yeah, that holds true for this game too. My favorite level of Donkey Kong Country 2 is Gusty Glade. Just like Windy Well, this level has wind as a mechanic. But unlike that level, it doesn't force you to commit to anything by jumping. I mean, it does somewhat, but it's more predictable. The basic idea of this level is that these leaves on the wind tell you the way the wind is blowing. Jump with the wind and you'll go farther. Jump against the wind and it'll be shorter. It's a simple idea, but they do a lot with it. The level has Rattly early on, and while it looks like some jumps are difficult, don't worry, you don't need to rely on his super jump for anything. The wind changing can be a bit annoying, but once you understand where the wind changes and how that affects your movement, it adds a lot to the level in my honest opinion. I don't know what to say really, it's just fun to jump with the blowing wind and go sailing a huge distance. Combined with the atmospheric forest theme and falling leaves, there's just something hauntingly melancholic about this level in particular. It's not trying to be spooky like the other levels in this world, it's just the same mood you get during autumn. I will admit, fall is my favorite season, and I think that emotion captures Donkey Kong Country 2 as a whole. It's a very autumn game. All this and more is why I'm giving it my number 1 spot. Good on you, Gusty Glade. So that was Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest. Again, one of my favorite SNES titles, and I think that still holds true. I talked about this game frustrating me a lot, but it's a good kind of frustration if that makes sense. It's good for games to have a bit of friction every now and then, and DKC 2 definitely has a fair bit of it. It's still a marvelously atmospheric game and has some stellar art direction. Unlike Donkey Kong Country 1, I didn't feel like any of the level themes or ideas were over or underutilized. All of the levels feel suitably varied and interesting, and even if there were some level themes I like more than others, I wouldn't say any of them got on my nerves or bothered me too much. Again, even the lower levels on this list I think are pretty playable and don't really bring down or ruin the game at all. It's still mostly a blast to play from start to finish, and I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't yet. It's a great game and one of Rare's finest. Next time we'll be looking at a rather controversial entry into the Donkey Kong franchise. A game that people seem to either really love or really not love. For me personally, well, you'll have to tune in and watch me get egg on my face. See you later.